What an interesting time to be on your screen again. Good evening and thank you for joining me on this very informative episode of Gyna Plus right here on Afia TV. My name is Doris Mayem Shishe. Gyna Plus is a program that talks about issues affecting women and girls and sometimes children in the society. And of course, the program comes up every Wednesday at 6 p.m. and a repeat broadcast on Saturday at 8 p.m. And yes, we have an active YouTube channel, Afia Culture and Lifestyle, where you can get all of that information for free and at your disposal. So today on the show, we want to talk about something that is very important, but oftentimes overlooked. People over time have referred to it as a disease of the past, an adult disease. I'm talking about tuberculosis, something that is quite common, widespread, and is quite deadly. So my guest in the studio today will be giving us practical insight as to how we can prevent the spread of tuberculosis, how mothers can take timely intervention to save lives. After the break, you will meet my guest. Please stick around. Welcome back. If you just tuned in, this is Gyna Plus on Afia Television. My name is Doris Mayem Shishe. And on this program, we talk about health issues that affect women and girls and children. And on days, some days we do special edition for men. But today we want to talk about tuberculosis and particularly how it affects children. And joining me in the studio to do that is Dr. Obinna Chukwuebuka Nduagubam. He is a consultant pediatrician with ESUTH Parklane. He's also an associate professor of Paediatrics, ESUT College of Medicine, as well as the head of Department of Paediatrics, ESUT College of Medicine. It's good to have you here, Doctor.
Thank you so much, Doris. Good evening or good afternoon, viewers.
Welcome. It's been a long time. Last time I had you was sometime upstairs where we used to do our news set. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
So let's begin. I know that, World TB Day was yesterday, March 24th, and we're having this discussion today because of how important it is. But before we talk about how it affects children, just give us a brief background too. We would like to know what TB is, and of course, from there we kick off.
Thank you very much. Well, TB is a type of pneumonia. Pneumonia has to do with an infection involving the lungs. Okay. The only thing about TB is that it's a special type of pneumonia, and that's why it is singled out specifically. And then because of the danger, the specific conditions or problems that it can cause, and the fact that it's a major killer currently. So TB has been there far back, was isolated in 1882 by Dr. Robert Koch. That was exactly yesterday in 1882. That was 24th March 1882 when he isolated the bacteria, Mycobacterium tuberculosis. And since then, and because of that particular day, 24th March, is set aside, worldwide to create awareness about TB globally and the impact of TB in people generally and also in children. So tuberculosis is a pneumonia caused by Mycobacterium tuberculosis, which is a bacteria. It's an atypical bacteria. It's not a common type of bacteria we know. And just like every other pneumonia, most of the tuberculosis we know, 80% of tuberculosis affects the lungs. And that is why most of the TB cases we know are TB affecting the lungs. Okay, and that is the one that has greater epidemiological importance or economic importance, because that is the one that is easily spread, okay, through coughing openly, even when we sneeze or talk loudly or shout or sing or sneeze, we can release the bacilli, which if we are in an enclosure, persons around that are either immunocompromised or have health conditions that makes it more likely it can get into their own airway, settle there, and begin to multiply and also cause them infection by the same organism, Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So there are other species, but the Mycobacterium tuberculosis is the commonest.
Okay.
We have other species of Mycobacterium that cause TB.
Okay, so let's work with the one that's common. Then I know you mentioned ways that it can spread, sort of, but I'd like you to, let's pick it one after the other. How can it be spread? You said through the airwaves and all of that. Let's just pinpoint them. Okay.
So majorly, mostly it is through, what we suspend in the air when we cough, when we sneeze. Okay, because that is the largest mode of spread. Okay, every other thing else, like making direct contact with secretions, are very
Sharing,
minimal.
utensils.
But you can't get it from sharing utensils. Okay, but you can get it from
cups.
yes. Okay, having contact with the bacilli when it is suspended in the air. Okay, as we breathe in, we can take these particles in the air. It settles in our airway, and then it begins to cause us problems. In the number of cases, it may come in, and our body is able to destroy them without even our knowing. But in some cases, when it gets in, if our body is conducive, either our immunity is not strong enough, or we have disease conditions that make it more likely for it to settle, diabetes, okay, malnutrition, that can make it easy, or we have medications that make our immunity low. All those will make the bacilli much more likely to settle in our airway, and then it begins to multiply and then give us all the signs and symptoms that TB presents with.
All right. So because today I want us to be more particular about children, because I think they are always very vulnerable. Now, for a mother who is obviously might be watching us now, sometimes it starts with that times where children will have normal cough and you're giving them different cough medications and it seems like it's not going. Are there specific signs to look out for to say, oh, this might be a TB, not necessarily an ordinary cough, and at what point should you now take action?
Yes, thank you very much. Well, the thing about TB in children is that there has to be that high index of suspicion, and that is part of the problem we're having currently, because some health workers, particularly in the rural environments, may not be that skilled in quickly identifying. They may also not be able to pass necessary information to mothers as they come. But be that as it may, mothers should begin to get suspicious of TB if a child is, first and foremost, a child that is born is not adding weight properly. When a child is not adding weight as expected. In fact, currently now, whether there is cough or not or anything else, a child that is not adding weight properly is a suspicious case of TB. And that child will be screened, and until proven otherwise, TB is a suspicion on that child. That is one. Now, but coming to the general things that we know, a cough on a child that has lasted for 2 weeks or more. Once a cough has lasted 2 weeks or more,
even if it's mild cough,
even if it's mild or anything, that cough is suspicious, and that child should be screened. Okay. Then which other features? Fever, weight loss, night sweats that are drenching. Okay. So those are the things that we make. Those are the four clinical features that we use to do screening. Okay. Once a child has one of those two features, cough with fever, cough 2 weeks or more, okay, with fever or weight loss or drenching night sweats, that child is a suspicious case for TB. And that child should actually undergo a process of assessment. Okay, either the child gives his stool, if a child cannot cough up sputum, because most children below 5 years may not be able to cough up sputum. So if they do that, they may just give you saliva. Okay, so if they can't give you quality sputum, which you can subject to laboratory investigation, we can take samples of their stool. Okay, if it's not, we can also look at their chest X-ray, okay, which can help us. In very difficult cases, when we have done all that and we don't have anything clear-cut and that cough is there, a high-ranking physician can take a decision based on a high index of suspicion. And in most cases, if that diagnosis is made clinically, if you start them on anti-TB medications, within 2 months of treatment, you notice that child begins to get well. The weight begins to come up, the fever stops, the cough stops, and then the child begins to improve.
And TB is something that is treatable and curable.
Curable. In fact, even with our challenges as a nation, we have 93% success rate in our treatment in Nigeria. So the problem we're having is that people are not coming forward as they should. And it's very likely because of certain things, stigma, okay, certain challenges that people have, they don't want to come up. And then even some that you see that are suspicious, and you take samples from them and run the test. After taking that sample, when the result comes out, you cannot locate them. You can't access them to tell them their results. And then them can come off positive. And in just a single case of TB can infect 12 to 20 other cases within a space of 1 year.
Wow. Okay, talking about it's a good thing that we're talking about numbers now. So, I mean, I saw these statistics from WHO that in 2024, That's the global TB report. Nigeria is one of the top, ranked countries, and we stand as #1 in Africa, ranking first. And that's quite scary. So I like the fact that you already started establishing what you get to see on a normal day. But then again, what is it like working with children in this area? And what are there actual cases that you've seen first? How frequent are they? Well, what is it like? Talk to us about the reality now.
Well, with the reality on ground is that Nigeria still has about 600,000 cases of childhood TB that is roaming around. And of the 300 to 400,000 cases that we see on the average, totally, both adults and children we see in the country, average of 2-something to 3-something every year, 1,000, we realize that about 9 to 10% of those numbers are children. And we feel that that number can actually be more if the environment is conducive, if people are forthcoming, if the stigma is reduced, okay, if people are able to avail themselves of the free services available. Okay, so then we look at that figure, whereby we find that out of every 5 to 10 adult case of TB identified is a child. It now makes us worried. Okay, the fact that a good number of the estimated figure, looking at about 600,000 cases, you realize that we don't get up to even 1/1/5 of the child TB cases from our total search globally, and it's worrisome. And these things are coming from that index of suspicion, okay? And mothers being the ones that are in charge of these children who are largely vulnerable, they don't have, a mind of their own. Small children from 1 year to 14 years or thereabout, many of them are totally dependent on their parents. So it depends on the parent being able to bring them forward for assessment. And many times when you get a child case of TB, you realize that it didn't come from the skies. The source is nearby. It can be from that grandmother or that grandfather, it can be from the parents, it can be from an uncle or auntie, somebody nearby. And so it's part of what drives our case search. Once we find a case of TB, we'll do what we call a reverse screening. So we'll look backwards. Where did the child get it from? Okay, and if anybody you get, an adult that you get, who has he given it to? So that is thinking forward now. So, and when you look at that, you realize that you tend to find areas where you consider as hotspots, even within the states, where you find a reasonable number of cases. But the challenge still remains. Access to these places, facilities are available, manpower available, skilled manpower, and then the willingness to go all out. And then the stigma issue, because once those people, when you tell them that they have TB, they become, they withdraw. As if the TB is something that is leprosy or something terrible. They forget that the TB is just a pneumonia like every other pneumonia.
But it kills then again.
And it kills.
It's deadly.
Just like every other pneumonia can kill you.
Okay.
Pneumonia not treated can kill you. And but when you now come out and you avail yourself of the treatment, okay, which is totally free, investigations, the treatments are free, you don't need to spend a kobo. All you need is to make
in
yourself
government facilities.
Yes. Even in some private facilities where these services are available, it is free. So it's for you to avail yourself, access those facilities, the investigation, the drugs, or let them take them religiously, and you're cured. And the problem is that when you don't take those drugs, if you had a drug-susceptible TB, which is easier to treat, if you don't take the medications well, or you take and stop, as a good number of men would do, because we find a lot of, a good number of men, once they start the treatment, they withdraw. A good number of women will finish their medications. But you find that issue of people stopping their medications midway once they begin to improve. Okay, and that can now breed what we call resistance, what we call the drug-resistant TB. And then the person now begins to use medications that are far more complex, okay, and for a much longer period, as against the person taking, what we consider safer medications for a shorter period and getting completely cured of that disease.
All right. Later on, after the break, I'd like to talk about how it can even be managed, because if you realize that the child is already down with TB, what should we do in that context? After the break, we'll look at that. You're still watching Ghana Plus and Afia TV. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're still watching Gyna Plus on Afia TV, and today we're talking about something that affects everybody, but our key interest is on children. Today I'm talking about tuberculosis, and of course my guest, Dr. Obinna Nduagubam, is still in the studio. You've done quite an amazing job, giving us a rundown. We talked about numbers and some part of the severity. And you've established clearly that TB is very much curable and the treatment is free in facilities out there. The problem is that people are not willing to show up. But then again, in a case where a mother or a parent or a family has discovered that the child is down with, there's a cough that is beyond 2 weeks. And obviously, you say it doesn't just fall from the sky, it's always within. How can they manage it? First of all, even while the treatment is on, is there some sort of way that it can be managed? Because you already said it's contagious. How can it be managed to avoid some sort of widespread?
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. But particularly for children, because of their nature, they don't really give up much. Their TB has what we call is paucibacillary. That means the bacterial load in their sputum is a lot lower than in adults. And the ability of a child to suspend the bacilli in air through a forceful cough compared to an adult is much less.
Okay.
So you have a much lower likelihood of a child infecting an adult. It's most likely the other way around. Okay, so when a child has TB, well, if there's a case of TB, for example, even if it's in Parklane, once we make that diagnosis, the person is enrolled into the program. Okay, because TB is not just managed in the hospital just with the OTC medications, on-the-counter medications. Those medications are within the program, what we call the DOT facilities. For example, behind Parklane, there is a DOT center there. Okay, so once that diagnosis is made from the investigation results, it is confirmed to be TB, either through gene experts, okay, or the chest X-ray is suggestive, okay. Now, or the sputum gene expert is also suggestive of TB. The person will be enrolled into the TB program. So details are gotten, person is included into the register. Person's complete kit of medication is provided.
How long does it normally?
6 months.
Oh, okay, 6 months. I was going to ask for duration.
6 months. There are also shorter regimen that can go for 4 months. Okay, but the 6 months is the commonest. Okay, so the complete medications for that 6 months is kitted. So it's not the one of giving you 1 month and say you came back, there's no drug. No. They'll give you your complete kit is provided and kept.
And it's left for you to now.
So you now come every month and you get refilled. You show the blisters of what the child, the last supply finished, they'll give you the next supply. Okay, and as you come, they also monitor you and see how the child is progressing.
All right.
Okay, so but again, you see, the thing is that once a child has that cough that has lasted 2 weeks or more, or the child is not gaining weight, which will be spotted in places, immunization center, okay, so many other places when they come for assessment, a mother will also note that fever that is there, night sweats, okay, or the child has a swelling at the center of the back, what we call Pott's disease, okay, TB of the spine. Okay, though it's not so common, but these are things that can happen. So once that child has that cough that has lasted 2 weeks or more, that child should be screened. If the child, unfortunately, is HIV positive, we don't even wait for a cough of 2 weeks or more. A child that is HIV positive, that has a cough of 1 day, is advised to be screened. Okay, because TB HIV it's like fuel and fire. A child that has HIV gets TB, that child is very likely to die very quickly, a lot quicker than a child that doesn't have HIV and has TB. Okay, and the outcome will be better if there is no HIV with TB than when a child has HIV and TB. Okay, so that child is needed to be identified early, started on medications, and then they know when to also go on with both medications together, both for TB and HIV.
Wow.
So these are special areas.
But these are cases you've all seen.
Yes, so I remember a case of a child at General Hospital Library. That was as far back as 2018. Then I still go around general hospital, teaching medical officers how to collect sputum, how to collect, do gastric lavage and get samples from the stomach. Because then most of these children cannot cough up. So those of them that cough, they'll swallow it. Okay, they don't cough out and spit it out. So when they swallow it, realize that early in the morning you can get fluid from inside their stomach, okay, and subject it to the same test that you would have used sputum for. So we are teaching how to pass tube, gastric, and aspirate that fluid and assess. Okay, and I remember a child. That child was about 3 months. The mother had died. The father was alone with another older child. And they had come. They did the genus part. It was not negative. Okay, and they were wondering, why is this child not gaining weight? This child was just diminishing
3 months
before the health workers. So I said, no. In as much as we've done everything, we did chest X-ray, nothing spectacular, let's start this child on anti-TB medication. You will not believe that I started child on anti-TB medications, and within the first month, the child started gaining weight. This was what this child was virtually diminishing in our midst. So you realize that a child may not give you that typical adult presentation where they come with that cough, 2 weeks or more, weight loss, night sweats, fever. Sometimes it may just be what? A child that is failing to thrive. The child is failing to gain weight, and it should arouse your index of suspicion. And that is what we want health workers at those rural areas to pick. So that once you build the index of suspicion, build their skills, they'll be able to know when a child's weight is not normal and is consistently tipping below normal. They should be suspicious of that. And then if there are other clear-cut clinical symptoms and features, it should also increase your index of suspicion for that child to be assessed. And the investigation is free. So even if it is done and is not positive, at least your mind is at rest. You now begin to look for other things. Then it is there, and it is curable, and it is free, and that child dies for nothing.
Oh, no. All right. I mean, we are going to talk more about this. It's getting really interesting information that we are getting from this particular episode. So we will take a break again, and right after that, we'll wrap up. I'd like you to, stay back, because this time around, my guests will talk about some of the stigma and the myths around tuberculosis. Please, we'll be right back. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're still watching GynaFlows right here on Afia TV. And of course, today we are talking about tuberculosis, especially how it affects children. And it's been a whole lot of information sharing here on the show. My guest is, he's doing an amazing job talking about Dr. Obinna Nduagubam. Yes, sir. Thank you so much for all that you've said so far. Now, as we wrap up this particular segment on, tuberculosis and the awareness you've created so far, you mentioned earlier that sometimes people don't present cases because of the stigma attached. Talk to us about typical cases of stigma. What is it that people get to stigmatize others about TB?
Well, the stigma is an age-long thing that is really worrisome, because I think it spans from ignorance, really. And that is part of why we are here, to create that awareness, people to know that TB is a pneumonia, just like every other pneumonia. There is nothing spectacular the person did wrong to have TB, or for that person to be stigmatized against. It's totally wrong. In fact, I remember some years back, the TB leprosy control program vehicle came to see a man that had TB in his home. And the man felt so embarrassed that he warned the person in the vehicle and said, if not because I know you, what I would have done to you and your vehicle. And that particular issue, in fact, you realize that a good number of states don't even write that on their vehicle anymore. They don't label it TB program. They just leave it blank. And it's that bad. If there's a disease one should stigmatize against, it's not TB. Okay? Because there's nothing bad you did. Okay? It can be in anywhere, and you don't know that the person that is coughing next to you or breathing next to you has TB. And once the bacilli is suspended, it can get into it can just inhale the air, okay? It finds your airway conducive, it begins to multiply there.
Okay.
So there's nothing wrong the person did to have that. And now people look at that and begin to stigmatize. Oh, they say this child has, or this person has TB.
How is it called in Igbo? Is there a local name to read?
That's Opala. I've forgotten what they call it.
Okay.
It's not Opalanta.
Okay, because I know because sometimes it comes from that local setting, and there's a way.
I'm trying to get the name.
Okay, once you remember, I think we could.
So, but the thing about it is that you realize that the stigma thing is totally unfounded. Okay, some people will now tell you that, oh, it's not their portion.
Yeah.
In fact, you've seen some people that, I remember a family that their mother had TB. That woman would have been cured, but that woman died. They refused to present the mother. They kept denying. From the state program, I personally called the relations of this woman, pleaded with them, let this woman take the medications. They refused.
Even if it's at home.
See, the woman died.
It's quite
so you
unfortunate.
begin to wonder why such things should be there. So for children particularly that don't have that's opportunity to take a decision on their own that's supposed to be taken by their parents. Sometimes they are denied access to some of these medications, and that's what brings us to people creating a problem to others. That's why when you have a disease for which you can infect others, you cannot just decide and say, "Oh, I'm the one that has the disease. I can decide whether I want to be treated or not."
For something that's contagious.
But it's more or less a biological weapon, okay, which if you are treated and cured, you don't pose a problem to other people. So that is on the angle of legislation and implementation now. Okay, so there are certain things that you cannot just have and say it is self-limited. It's not limited to you. And you don't even have the right to take your life.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are the issues. And so people that say it's a spiritual problem, it was people that did something in the village and gave it to me, it's not my portion, and so on and so forth. And they die for things that they would have been cured of.
All right.
That's quite worrisome.
All right, thank you so much. We're really running out of time. But one last question, I'd like you to keep it really brief. Is there some sort of, I don't know if it's a myth that is caused by cold or sometimes stress? You mentioned that it's some side of pneumonia. So, but is there anything like cold associated to TB and maybe cold water, all of that, and what you should abstain from when you have TB?
TB has nothing to do with cold. Viruses suspend in the air when the weather is cold. And that's what people call common cough and catarrh. They call it cold. Okay, that's the name, because once the weather is cold, viruses are suspended in the air.
That is not the
okay,
cause.
And with viruses can cause you cough and catarrh. That's a different thing. TB is about overcrowding, okay, environment that is not clean, okay, circulation that is not good enough, immune system, malnutrition that makes you more likely to also have that organism, and it begins to multiply in you. Okay, certain chronic illnesses that may make your immunity not strong enough will not make you not predisposed. Particularly those that live in slums, those that are in remand homes, in prisons, and all that. Okay, they are in high risk areas. Okay, and these are areas that we also target. Places that are people of low socioeconomic background stay. Okay, and low socioeconomic background also comes with ignorance. Okay, because the education is also not there, ignorance is there, and it's more difficult to do what? To convince them and to also even access them. So these are the challenges.
All right. We wish we can actually continue, but then again, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation, Doctor. We've been having a chat with Dr. Obinna Chukwuebuka Nduagubam, who is a consultant pediatrician with ESUTH Parklane, and also an associate professor of pediatrics, ESUT College of Medicine, and of course the head of Department of Paediatrics, ESUT College of Medicine. It's been such a wonderful and eye-opening session. Then for me, I would just say you've heard it all. It's curable, it's treatable, and it's something that it's not a death sentence. So once you see people coughing more than 2 weeks, you could help them report these cases, or then again, tell them what to do, given the information you've garnered so far. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening. My name is Doris Mayem Shishe. Bye-bye.